On the 22nd of May 2021, 172 athletes took their places at the starting line of the Yellow River Stone Forest Marathon in Baiyin City, Gansu Province. These 172 people were set to take part in the 100-kilometer-long ultramarathon. The event would quickly turn to tragedy, as 21 of the competitors would die on the course during the event, making it one of the worst sporting disasters in Chinese history. Located in the northwest of China, Baiyin City in Gansu Province lies close to the Gobi Desert. Once an area known for its mining, Baiyin has struggled economically in modern times, as has the rest of Gansu, which is one of the poorer provinces in the country. The race took place in the Yellow River Stone Forest, a popular tourist destination for the few visitors the region gets. The annual event was started to help revitalize the region by bringing in more people to take part in or watch the race. By 2021, it was in its fourth year and attracted a total of 1,960 participants. There were 3 different categories of race. Most of the participants, around 1,700, took part in the 5-kilometer health run. A further 93 runners attempted the 21-kilometer marathon. Then there were the 172 athletes who would take on the 100-kilometer cross-country ultramarathon. The 3 events would all begin at 9 a.m. The 5-kilometer race finished at around 10:30 without any major incident. The 21K run would also finish without any issues around 2 hours later. However, around this time there were some concerns growing about the runners in the ultramarathon. While the weather was good for the run at the start of the event, a cold weather front had been moving in over the course of the morning, and by around 10:30 the temperature had dropped by between 4 and 8 degrees. The cold air brought with it rain and winds, further adding to the issue of the falling temperature. Sometime around 12 p.m., approximately 131 participants had passed checkpoint 2 and were attempting to get to checkpoint 3. This was one of the more challenging parts of the course, as the runners had to climb to the over 2,000-meter high-altitude section. As they climbed from an elevation of 1,347 meters at checkpoint 2, towards the 2,230 meters of checkpoint 3, the weather would continue to get worse. As well as the drop in temperature, runners were also facing near gale force winds, with level 9 gusts. As the people taking on the ultramarathon were hardcore runners, most were wearing thin clothing that gave them little protection from the elements. As their gear got soaked by the rain and the winds hit them, their body temperatures began to fall. At around 12:17, the organizers and the Blue Sky Rescue team hired for the race started to receive messages on the event's WeChat group chat from competitors asking for help. Soon after, people would quickly start dropping out of the race. However, it wouldn't be until almost 1 p.m. that the police were contacted, as people stuck on the course started to panic. The Blue Sky Rescue team, a voluntary public emergency response team, had started picking up retirees from the lower areas of the course, and had started trying to find people who were further along, taking supplies to try and help warm the stricken competitors up. Many of the runners had stopped moving and had chosen to huddle together to find warmth. Some had full blankets, but those that weren't blown away or torn by the wind did little to give the participants any heat. There were some runners who simply chose to huddle together out in the open, as they couldn't find any shelter from the elements. Others were fortunate enough to find a small building on the course, which they crammed inside, desperate to get out of the wind, rain, and the hail that had begun falling. People would take videos of themselves and share on social media, hoping that someone would see the situation, then come and help them. Although under normal circumstances the weather wouldn't have been considered especially extreme, a combination of factors made it deadly. The wind, rain, clothing the competitors were wearing, and the elevation at checkpoint 3 meant that the actual temperature being felt was in the minuses, possibly getting as low as -6 degrees centigrade. Despite the pleas for help and the number of competitors dropping out, the event wasn't suspended until 2 p.m. 2 hours after messages had been sent on the group chat. It would be another hour until the organizers contacted the emergency services and a full-scale rescue got underway. However, the operation was severely hampered by both the weather and location. Helicopters were unable to fly over the area and vehicles couldn't get up the incline. That meant rescuers had to painstakingly search the course on foot. The first body was discovered at 5 p.m., 5 hours after participants had asked for help. By 7 p.m., 139 people had been found safe and alive. The search would continue through the night into the next day. It finally ended at 12 p.m. on May 23rd, and 21 people were confirmed dead. Among those that passed, there would be a number of well-respected members of the running community. Most noticeably Liang Jing and Huang Guanjun, both very experienced and renowned endurance runners. Liang Jing was often called running god in the ultramarathon community. He had participated in a number of endurance events over the years, had won or placed in the top 3 of most of the events he took part in. He was at the time of this race the holder of China's 12-hour marathon record and a number of other records. He was found 1.5 kilometers away from checkpoint 3, the skin on his knees worn away as he had tried to crawl to the checkpoint. Huang Guanjun was a renowned para-athlete in the running community in China. When he was just 1 year old, he went deaf and mute after an illness and poor treatment by a doctor. This made his education almost impossible, as there was little in place to help such students, and he was an outcast at school because of his disability, finding it hard to make friends. Thanks to encouragement from a teacher, he took up running and found he had a natural talent for it. In his junior high school, he would win all the provincial events he took part in, earning him the nickname Huang Champion. Later in life, he would go back to running after struggling with work. He would win a number of endurance races. However, he didn't make enough money from running, so had to get a job. This meant he could only run part-time. He took part in this event after seeing how much prize money it offered. Once the rescue operation and recovery of the bodies had been completed, Zhang Xuchen, the mayor of Baiyin City, held a press conference to update the media on what they knew so far. He would announce a comprehensive investigation into the incident before expressing his own feelings of guilt for being a sponsor of the event. He offered his deepest sympathies and condolences to those that died or were injured in the race and to their families. This did little to quell the anger of the families of those that did not survive or the participants who were injured or almost lost their lives on the course. People wanted answers as to why the event ended in such a tragic manner. On the 25th of May, a family member of one of the runners that died told reporters that the families had been offered compensation of 95,000 RMB, about $13,000 by the local government. He would go on to say that a number of the families refused to sign an agreement to accept it, as they felt the amount was too low. On June 6, the investigation was completed and the report on how 21 people lost their lives was released to the public. While the weather conditions were given some blame, the committee felt that the event organizers were at fault and their organization of the event was substandard. The organizers had ignored reports for how the weather would be during the run between the challenging checkpoints 2 and 3 section. There had even been a blue gale warning issued by the meteorological office, which wasn't heeded. Furthermore, when participants had asked if they should wear warmer gear for the race, they had been told there would be no need as it was the beginning of summer. As the weather report had been ignored or not understood, the number of supply points and health services along this section was found to be significantly insufficient. In addition, investigators found that there was no emergency response plan in place before the start of the event. The report would be highly critical of the organizers after competitors told them they needed to withdraw from the race. It was also found that the communication setup was lacking. There was little wireless communication signal in that area of the course, and nothing had been done to counteract this issue. This created great difficulties in the early stages of the rescue operation as the different teams struggled to communicate with each other. The report was damning in its assessment of the organizers. It found that the blame for the tragedy lay directly with the Gansu Shengjing Sports and Cultural Development Company. It said the organization of the event did not come close to reaching the industry standards and there was a total lack of professionalism and management. It also found that despite it being a small company of only 12 employees, it had won a large number of contracts from the local government. After autopsies had been performed on the victims, it was found that the majority died from acute hypothermia. Eventually, most families would agree compensation with the local government, and those arrested were investigated for their own level of culpability in the tragedy. Some of those responsible would be removed from their positions and heavily sanctioned by the government. This would include the mayor of Baiyin City, Zhang Xuchen, while those found to have less involvement would be issued with government warnings. Out of the tragedy, one man would become something of an unexpected hero. Local shepherd Zhu Keming was out taking care of his flock on the day of the race. Having worked the fields for most of his life, he was very knowledgeable about the area and experienced enough to know when bad weather was coming. He and other farmers had a cave they would use to shelter from bad weather. In the cave there were some places to sleep and bedding. There was also a healthy supply of firewood, as the farmers would never know how long they would need to stay in the cave if the weather turned. Looking out of the cave at around 2 p.m., he noticed someone out in the bad weather. He went out to see what the person was doing and quickly saw he was a marathon runner in trouble, barely able to walk and slowly freezing to death. Zhu Keming helped the runner to the cave and got him in front of the fire. From his own experience, he knew the person was in trouble and began to massage them to increase the blood flow. 4 more people would come across the cave, and Zhu Keming did what he could to help them recover. They talked for a while, and the runners explained that there were more people outside. The shepherd, better dressed to cope with the weather, went out to see if he could find any more people who needed his help. He walked 2 kilometers up the course until he came across 3 more people. 2 had already died, the third was close to death. Zhu Keming got the runner up and helped them walk down the hill to the cave. The runner's condition and the weather made it slow going. The shepherd realized he couldn't do this alone. He laid the runner down in a thermal blanket he had and rushed back to the cave. Once back at the cave, Zhu Keming asked one of the recovered runners to help him. They went back out and would get the person back to the cave together. That made 6 lives that Zhu Keming had a hand in saving. His deeds got him a lot of media attention and would get a number of contract offers from social media companies to do live streaming. One of the people he saved, Zhang Xiaotao, would come back to the village to see him later and would help Zhu Keming do his own live streaming to promote the farming produce from the village. Although he enjoys helping the village, he claims he finds streaming harder work than shepherding. He would also start training to take part in a marathon. On the 4th of April 2023, Zhu Keming and Zhang Xiaotao together would successfully complete the Zhengkai Marathon in Zhengzhou Province. They completed the 21 kilometers in a time of 2 hours and 3 minutes. After the race, Zhang Xiaotao said he did this to repay Zhu Keming for saving his life. The point wasn't to take part in the race, but to take Zhu Keming out of Gansu for the first time in his life, so he can experience something he wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider like, subscribing, and commenting. And we hope to see you again for the next one.